Welcome to today's class. Today we are going to talk about intermodal transport. When we talk about intermodal transport, the key word there you need to understand is the word inter. Inter means two. When you're switching from one mode of transport to another, therefore you are doing what is called intermodal transportation. By definition, intermodal transportation means transportation which switches goods on transit from one mode of transport to another. There are four major types of intermodal transportation. This includes piggyback. Piggyback involves the use of railway and track. So in piggyback, you're exchanging road and rail at the same time. So basically, goods can switch from road transport to railway transport, or alternatively from road transport to rail transport. The second type is the fishyback. Fishyback involves the combination of water and truck. So basically you are switching goods on transit from water to road transport. The third one is called the train ship. The train ship involves the combination of water transport and rail transport. So in this case you are shifting goods from water to rail transport. And the last one is called the air truck, which involves the shipping or the shifting of goods between air and road transport mode. So basically, when you are told intermodal transportation, the key word there you need to understand is inter. Inter meaning two. So when you're switching two modes of transport or goods in transit, basically you're doing what is called intermodal transport. We also have another one called multimodal transport. So multimodal transport basically involves switching goods on transit more than using two modes of transport. So in multimodal transport you are switching maybe, let's say, three modes of transport. You can decide to use road, railway and air transport. The other thing we are going to talk about today is the reasons why companies decide to use intermodal transportation. One of the reasons is to attain flexibility. So companies that want to attain flexibility, they can decide to use two modes of transport, whereby when one mode of transport is weaker, the other mode of transport can be used to strengthen the goods in transit. The other thing is to minimize transportation costs, especially over long distances. You realize some modes of transport are very expensive, let's say air transport. So an organization that wants to cut on transportation costs can decide to use intermodal transport, whereby they switch goods on transit. They can decide to use road transport and railway transport instead of using air transport, which is very expensive. The other reason is to overcome geographical and physical barriers. So when you want to overcome geographical and physical barriers, you can decide to use intermodal transport. This is because there are some areas where, let's say, road transport cannot be used. You can decide to use air transport, or you can decide to use railway transport, depending on what you want to use. So therefore you are able to overcome what is called geographical and physical barriers. The other important thing is to break bulk. That is, goods that arrive in containers need to be broken down into smaller units for easy transportation. So you realize when goods reach the airports or the water ports, sometimes they are too bulky. So the best thing that can happen for an organization is to decide to break the bulk. And this can only happen when you're using intermodal transportation. The other reason as to why people use intermodal transport is because they want to maintain the customer. Therefore, they want to offer door-to-door services, and door-to-door services is very common in road transport. So when you're using road transport, you're able to offer door-to-door services, and this is important for any organization that wants to satisfy their customers. The other concept we are going to talk about today is containerization. As the name suggests, container, this is the use of containers or box units used for transporting goods. For example, when you are transporting goods from Mombasa, they are normally kept in containers. and these containers enable the safety of the goods to arrive, and they also enable the cargo to be transported or to be unitized easily. So basically, containerization is the use of containers while you are transporting goods, and this enables the organization to be able to ensure easy lifting, easy hooking, and consolidation of materials. Basically, you are able to count even the materials more easily when you are using containers. So we have many types of containers, and this depends on the standard length and height of the container. So the first type of container is called the full container load. Under full container load, goods are normally transported using a certain standard and length. The second type is called the less container load, where cargo is combined into several consignments. So basically, in full container load, they are normally considered as one consignment. But this other one, they normally combine the various consignments to form one big consignment. What are some of the benefits of containerization? The first benefit of containerization is that it offers security and protection of cargo. So you realize you are able to protect your cargo when they are in transit. The other thing is security of the cargo. Remember, some of these containers are made of metal, and when things are made of metal, then it means at the end of the day, in terms of security and protection, it will be very high, and some of the risks like sunlight and rain cannot affect the materials on transit. The other thing is that it ensures irregular goods are smoothed into regular shaped goods in transportation. So we have those goods that are irregular in shape, and this, when you're using containers, it becomes easier for you to make the goods become regular. For example, when you're transporting cotton, sometimes the cotton is irregular, and using the containers, it will enable the materials to be regular. The other thing is that it allows or makes handling of cargo more simpler. So when you're handling cargo using containers, sometimes it becomes easier. It also simplifies the process of customer clearance and documentation. So remember, when you're clearing materials at the airport, sometimes it becomes very easy to do that. This is because containers have simplified your clearing process. It also saves time in loading and offloading. So when you're loading materials, for example, when you go to Mombasa today and you see the containers being loaded and offloaded, it is very easy and very interesting when you are seeing how they are doing their job. The other thing is it reduces the cost of handling and transportation. So basically, handling cost is reduced. And remember, when handling cost is reduced, then at the end of the day, the organization is able to get profits. It is also easy to locate the movable containers. This is because of serialization. So basically, it allows the organization to be able to ensure easy movement by putting serial numbers on those items and basically tracking them as they move from one location to another. The other important thing is that containers are very durable and as compared to other materials. So basically, when you're using containers, you're able to protect your materials when they are on transit.